I want to take the time and say thank you to you guys. You guys are truly amazing. It truly is a blessing. For those who aren't aware, I just hit 2K, and those who were in the stream, I appreciate the support. Now, I did promise a giveaway at 2K, and I will do it. I'll let y'all know in advance what video I will be doing the giveaway, so y'all stay tuned for that. I also was going to make an underrated video, but it was kind of tricky making it, so I decided to make this video today. So y'all stay tuned for that. I just want to give y'all a little backstory on Deacon before we start this video. Deacon comes from Joy City's first ever game known as FS1, and he is in a group called Taurus, I believe. He was a big also in that game. I believe he was a power forward. I'm unaware of what his skills were, but he also has connections in his characters who also were added in the games like Saru, Bagman, Hao, and like Mika. But yeah, he was originally from Joy City's other basketball game, and they decided to add him to this game. Now, as far as his playing style, like I mentioned earlier, I don't know what his playing style was. I don't know what skills he had. I do believe they did buff his height, meaning they made him taller than what he originally was, based off of the screenshot I had placed in the beginning of this segment. I'm not 100% aware, but I just wanted to give y'all a little backstory on who Deacon is before I talk about the downfall, just for those who aren't aware where Deacon came from. For those who weren't there during Deacon's launch, Deacon was one of the best characters they ever dropped on launch day. This is personally how I feel. I think him and Jack on launch day were the most busted and broken characters. Now, because of that, they did end up receiving a nerf, which I'm going to discuss in a second. But for those who weren't there for that, Deacon was one of the most broken characters to drop, and it did take them a while to nerf him, but they eventually end up nerfing him. They nerfed his defense, then they nerfed his rebounds, and they nerfed his kills, which I'm about to discuss right now. Now, personally, I don't have too much playing time on Deacon. I have about 1,600 games, if that, and maybe 51 hours. I'm not 100% sure, but I have some playing time on Deacon, so I feel like I could somewhat talk about Deacon and how I feel about him. My opinion might not be too valid to those who are quote-unquote bigs, but this is personally how I feel about Deacon. So this is what I'm going to say about Deacon. It might be very controversial, but ever since they nerfed Deacon, I think he is the worst power forward. Now, let me discuss why I think that. Deacon does not do that much for you. He does not do that much for you. When you look at Deacon, and I want y'all to tell me, what does Deacon really provide for you? Now, he has good rebounding. I'm not taking that from Deacon. He's a very good rebounder, and he has good defense. But besides that, what does he really provide for you? Because his skills, they nerfed his skills to the ground. His skills do not work. His shoulder tackle, whatever you want to call it, shoulder charge, I believe, it doesn't work, and it's only useful when you're in rage mode, but it's very hard to hit people now. His post push now has a cooldown time, and you can only do it with one person in the paint now. So what exactly does he do for you? Because his whole skills, his whole kit was just it was just orientated around making players, how do I explain it? It was more orientated around making it harder for players to play the game, if you know what I mean. That was his whole kit. His whole kit wasn't, like, how can I help my team? It was more like, let me just make it harder for players on the court to play. And they nerfed him, so he doesn't really provide much for you. And not only that, him being good at defense, they did not give him manual block. They fumbled on his P6 skills. I personally think they could have gave him manual block just to give him a little more strength back, but they did not give that to him. So personally, again, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have too much playing time with Deacon, but I do have a good amount. And as somebody who's a versatile player and uses every single position and has a good amount of playing time on every single character, I do think Deacon is a very underwhelming power forward as of right now. And the reason I say that, again, he doesn't do much for you. And my whole thing about his nerf is, how do they nerf characters but proceed to make characters who did exactly what he did, if not better? Prime example, Giant G. When I look at Giant G, he low-key reminds me of Deacon, minus like the defense, obviously, but his dunk is the main thing. Giant G's dunk is so hard to block, especially if you do not know how to stop it, and you can just cheese it. That was the same thing with Deacon on launch day. His dunk was so hard to block. So there's like, let's nerf his dunk, let's nerf his skills, let's just nerf everything about Deacon. And it's just crazy to me how they do that. So personally, with me, what I would like to see on Deacon is maybe like look at his skills and somewhat, I don't want to say revert it, but make it more, require more skill to use, kind of like buff his skills, but make it not as annoying. And personally, I think they should buff his rebound. His defense is cool, but I think he should be more of a rebounding power forward, especially since he's set to rival How. How is the best rebounding center, so I think it'll be cool if y'all was to revert his nerf. But that's just me speaking off of how I feel about Deacon. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate because I said Deacon is the worst power forward. No, y'all changing my minds. The people who still think he's a top tier is the people who think that, oh, only Murdoch and Fox and Giant G are the best power forwards. They only use those type of power forwards. They're brain dead to those power forwards. They only stick to the meta and follow everybody else's opinions. And if you felt offended, I was talking about you. So yeah, that's personally how I feel. I will discuss on the next video why I think he's the worst power forward compared to like Lulu and like Clark and like Max or whatever. But that's just personally how I feel. And let me know what you'll like to see on Deacon, what they could do to him, how you feel about Deacon. I'm going to receive a lot of hate in this video. That's perfectly fine. I honestly really don't care. But this is just more of a like how Deacon fell off. I do think he could get a buff, and I do think Joy City could look at him and be like, all right, let's buff him.